host for the show, Bob Irwin. We are coming to you from the gun store here in Las Vegas, Nevada, live. We are on KDWN News Talk Radio. You can get that if you're not on it. If you're on the website to get the show, you can punch kdwn.com, and there's a button there for the radio broadcast to stream it live to your computer, iPad, or whatever you would like. We are also, as others of you know, on YouTube, which is also going out live. You go to YouTube, Fired Up with Bob Irwin. And in conjunction with YouTube, we're now on Periscope, which is an offshoot of Twitter. If you are a Twitter person, you can get an app that will say Periscope and punch on and see the show live just like you would on YouTube. So that all being said, this show is about guns, politics, and self-defense issues. A lot of interesting politics this week. I want to remind viewers and listeners that starting next Wednesday, the visual version of this show will start broadcasting on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. instead of Saturdays at 6 p.m. The radio will still be on Saturdays at 6 p.m., but the YouTube version and the Periscope version we will make on Wednesday night. It will go out live. So mark your calendar that we will be on Wednesdays. On YouTube, you can pick it up anytime anyway. After that, it stays up there forever. Periscope, I understand, only stays up 24 hours. So you need to watch on Wednesday starting next week. We do encourage questions and comments between the various media we're on. We can't do them live on the air at the moment. Working on it. You can send your questions or comments to bob@firedupmail.com. It's on a sign behind my head if you can read it. And we do answer every question or comment we get by email. Tonight's guest is murder defense specialist, attorney locally here, Clark Patrick.
Hi, Bob.
One more time. Welcome to the show.
Nice to be back.
Clark is one of our regular guys and makes his entire living defending murderers, basically violent crime.
Yeah, well, murder. It's all homicide cases that I cover. Regular listeners will know that grew up in Montana, just got back from a trip to Montana, did a little pheasant hunting, grew up with guns and hunting, did a little stint in the Army for a while, tanker, played with the big guns, and then for the last little over 10 years now, I've been doing solely homicide defense.
And I will say, when Clark gives an opinion on this show, the best detectives in the police departments are the homicide detectives. The best prosecutors are the murder prosecutors. The best defense attorneys are the murder defense attorneys, because they're all involved in the cases that really matter. So it's when someone does that for a living, they are good at their job. When this broadcast ends at 7 p.m. on KDON radio, we'll continue a little bit with some gun issues that will be a little extended version of the show, about 15 minutes, on the internet version on YouTube and on Periscope if you want to stay tuned, or if you're then home by now and don't have to listen to the broadcast while you're driving, you can get on YouTube or Periscope after 7 o'clock and we'll be there. We have this, I got a ton of announcements this week. Crossroads of the West Gun Show at Cashman Field, October 24 and 25, has sent me a whole bunch of passes to give to my listeners. So if you will drop me an email at that address we gave, bob@firedupmail.com, we will set you up and recontact you back to tell you how to pick up your passes for the Cashman show, which is in 2 weeks. So that should do that. We always start out with some defensive handgun cases. It's a project with me because the mainstream media doesn't cover very much of that. There are about 200 cases every week of some individual in the United States defending himself with his constitutionally protected ability to have a firearm in his home or carry one as a concealed permit. So we always started with a few of these for the listeners' education. Most are good, some are bad, some are questionable. I got one on here that's completely stupid tonight, but they're all food for thought for gun owners to what would you do if you were in that same situation. We'll start out with one from CBS TV 47. This is in Folkestone, Georgia. An intruder was shot dead after police say he attacked two sisters in their own home. The man was killed Tuesday night. This is a week ago. No, this week, I'm sorry. During what the Charlton County Sheriff called a home invasion. The 40-year-old intruder was shot 3 times by the 64-year-old woman after she and her 75-year-old sister were attacked in their home. Deputies got a 911 call. There was a burglary happening. When they got there, they found an unresponsive man dead in the yard outside the home. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation said this is considered a homicide. While it appears to be a case of self-defense, as a formality, the GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigation, will present it, of course, to the district attorney's office to see if charges should be filed. Before I get Clark to comment on that, the Newsjax 4, and I've explained to listeners before, I always get at least 2 sources of these stories because sometimes they turn out to be hoaxes or somebody's opinion and nobody else agrees that that was really happened. Newsjax 4, which is another medium in Georgia, followed with the same story, and they came up with another fact. The same suspect was convicted of attacking another elderly woman in 2009, also in a home invasion. He was arrested and eventually pled guilty to aggravated burglary, aggravated battery and burglary. He was sentenced to 20 years probation. Obviously, that wasn't enough time.
Obviously not. That's a long time to be on probation.
Yeah, and no jail time. If had the elderly sister not had a firearm, obviously, both sisters might be dead right now. Perfect case of self-defense.
Perfect.
I know GBI will look at it because you've got a dead guy, and he apparently, I left the detail, he was actually in the house when she fired 3 rounds. He stumbled out the door and died right in front of the house. So it wasn't that she shot him on the lawn, but they have to look into that, obviously, make sure the blood spatters match and whatever.
Everything, and he wasn't running away or, whatever. But yeah, and it's, of course, it's a homicide. Every self-defense is a homicide because homicide simply means death at the hands of another. But so
that a human killed you.
Yeah, but a human killed you. So all self-defense is technically homicides, but all homicides are not murder. And there's different degrees of murder and self-defense and manslaughter, and they're all considered homicides. Very, common in most places, even here, that even when you shoot somebody in self-defense, the police will look at it. Here they don't necessarily have to take it to the district attorney. Some places they do, and some places they have to give it to a grand jury to check and make sure that it was a self-defense.
Yeah,
but
they all look at those. All police departments do. And when you see the little stories in the gun magazines, Mrs. McCurdy shot this guy, and the police came and said it was a good shooting find, gave her a free bullet or whatever, patted her on the head, and she went back to sleep. That doesn't really happen. You're going to be up for a while where there's a dead guy in your living room explaining what happened, and the first thing you explain to the officers is,
I want my lawyer.
There you go. No matter how good you think the shooting was, no matter how perfect it was, you're going to say something stupid because you're all wound up. You just killed somebody, the body's laying there. Don't talk. Call the police. Get calmed down. Have your attorney there to help you through it, so you don't say something that's going to cause problems later. And lots of examples of that.
It's very simple. You just tell the police that you want to help, you want to be cooperative, but you want counsel before you do.
That's all there is to it. You have a right to that. Use it. It's important. It really will be. You won't be in a good state of mind unless you kill somebody every week or so and you've gotten used to that. But you're going to have another problem if you kill somebody every week. So I want to remind you, I just said at the outset, starting next week, this show will be on Wednesday nights, 6 o'clock instead of Saturday nights. Mark your calendar. I want to remind everybody we do offer free concealed carry permit classes here every Monday, every Wednesday, and every Saturday. That's here at the gun store. You can find out and reserve space by hitting our website, thegunstorelasvegas.com. You can sign up actually on the website. While you're playing with your computer, you might like us on Facebook. I would appreciate that if you would. We have a Facebook page. And if you like us, then we'll put you on our mailing list and send you all kinds of neat stuff. This next case is from the Duluth Tribune. This is on the 30th of September, St. Louis County, Minnesota. Deputies were investigating a rash of vehicle burglaries in Rice Lake. It's a community there. Residents along several of the local roads had been victimized by car burglaries. Apparently, the suspects were rummaging through vehicles that they found usually unlocked and stealing little stuff. This guy looked out and saw the light on in his car, and the door was open about 6:30 a.m. He went out and found a man and a woman leaving with his camera that was sitting in the car. He grabbed the woman. The male suspect then pulled out a pistol. Surprise. This is opposed to not staying in the house and just calling 911. But anyway, he goes out there, grabs a woman, got the camera. The guy pulls a gun. So the homeowner let the woman go, having a gun pointed at him, ran back in the house, got his gun, ran back out as the car is going down the driveway and fired 3 shots at it as it sped away. According to the police, at least 16 homeowners say they had vehicles prowled, many items stolen over the same 2-day period. Most of the vehicles were unlocked, and the items stolen were usually cameras, sunglasses, small amounts of change they had in their car for parking meters, whatever. Nothing spectacular. No suspects have ever been caught or identified. The homeowner has not been able to provide a solid description. Investigators say now they suspect the handgun the bad guy had was a dog training pistol that only fired blanks. I don't know how they know that, but that's what they think. Sheriff spokesman said the suspects were leaving. They weren't threatening him at that point. You can't try to kill someone for taking a camera out of your car. At the very least, we're looking into charging him with reckless discharge of a firearm. Again, the decision to actually charge this guy will be up to the county attorney when they look at it. The problem here is obvious. The fact the bad guy had a fake gun, that's fine. The homeowner had no reason to believe it was a fake gun. Pulling a fake gun on somebody with a real gun is not smart. He didn't have a real gun at the time, but he ran and got it, came back out. As long as he fired, he really reasonably believed the guy's gun was real, that's okay. He could shoot because there's a believable threat in front of him.
Absolutely. The problem that the homeowner is going to run into is, like you said, first, when he saw him in the car, he was inside, he was safe, he could have called 911 then. But he went outside unarmed. When the guy pulls the gun, he runs back inside. Again, an opportunity to call 911. Don't go back out. And certainly when the car is leaving and all that they have stolen is property, don't shoot at them. Don't shoot at a leaving car. And especially if all they've stolen is property, because you cannot kill somebody for stealing property. And that's why the last, I don't know, probably 20 years now, that most of the casino security are unarmed, because anymore, since the Supreme Court decision, you can't, if you run in and grab a handful of chips and leave, they can't shoot you.
Yeah, this could have been a horrible case if his marksmanship was better. And imagine if he killed this woman or the guy with the fake gun while they were driving away. This wouldn't be a funny story at all. This would be the guy going to prison.
Yes.
So don't do that. That's not the one that is really stupid. There's another one that's even worse than this. We're going to get there in a bit. A follow-up here real quick. On the September 26th, 2 weeks ago, we reported a story about a bank customer in Warren, Michigan, had a permit, thwarted a bank robbery. The legal wrangling in that case is now over. We ended that by saying the district attorney is looking at it. The 60-year-old customer used a concealed pistol to shoot a would-be robber, will not face criminal charges, according to the McCobb County prosecutors, which is as we expected. The suspect remains in federal custody following his medical treatment. He has been named in a criminal complaint in the U.S. District Court. Bank robbery, federal court. The 60-year-old guy is accused of robbing the Citizens Bank, where he allegedly used a loaded handgun, took a large amount of cash from the tellers. The armed customer emerged from the restroom and found the suspect pointing the gun at his face. drew his own gun with a gun in his face and fired 3 rounds. He told police he feared for his safety. Well, that's pretty obvious. One more time, there's a good guy with a gun, save some money. I don't know. As a firearms instructor, I want to tell you tactically, if someone's pointing a gun at your face, that's the right moment to draw your gun and shoot him. He may be about to shoot you, so we can't really argue with that tactical decision. It depends whether the guy looked like, in your opinion, you were about to get killed.
Right.
You got to do something. Normally, you'd want to, to deflect the gun or step back or something, but I never second guess the guy because you got to look at all the overall circumstances. And anyway, it worked. He shot the guy, hit the guy 3 times. He's going to survive. Good guy with a gun, saves the day, saves the bank, and there we are. Starting next week, this show will be on Wednesday night on YouTube and Periscope, 6 to 7 p.m., same time, Wednesday night. So we're going to have another show in about 4 days, right after the debate is finished for the Democratic candidates, where I expect all of them to try and outdo the other one for getting rid of guns policies.
Yes, absolutely.
We're going to have a bit on that at 7 o'clock. There's some stuff you want to hear when we get there. Fox 8 in Cleveland on the 2nd, a man was shot in the neck in an attempted robbery. This is bizarre. A 43-year-old guy is walking in the area of East 105th and Columbia. This is in Cleveland. I don't know if that's a good neighborhood or bad neighborhood. They just mentioned it in the reports. At 8 p.m. on a Friday evening, the victim reported one man approached him, pointed a gun at him, and tried to rob him. Instead of handing over anything, he grabbed the gun and the suspect, and they struggled over the gun, and he wrestled the gun away from the suspect. So far, so good. If you don't have a gun, you can always take the other guys away.
Right.
Unfortunately, there was a second suspect who was across the street. He came back across the street, got into the struggle too. He took the gun back that was his robber partner's gun that the good guy had. He took it back and shot the original victim in the neck. Then both suspects turned and ran. The victim is not seriously injured. He was treated and released from the hospital that same evening. Detectives are still looking for the pair. Having done this for 4 years in 1,000 cases, I have never seen a gun change hands twice in the middle of a fight. If you're going to defend yourself with a gun, it's easier if you bring your own. First off, it's a lot easier.
It's a lot easier
than taking it away from the other guy. If you have to, that's another solution, but better to have your own. I've constantly warned people in cases there are always more bad guys than you can see, and that's what happened here. He had a partner that was across the street watching, probably to cover his escape. When he saw his partner lose possession of his gun, he ran over to help. There are usually more bad guys. If there's an intruder in your house, there's probably 2 of them. If there's 2 in your house, there's probably another guy outside in the car. They really don't often work alone. The crook will have somebody else there to help. Be aware that when you disable one attacker, there's probably another one there. Home intruders particularly, as I just mentioned. In this case, when the guy got the gun, his advice would have been, again, I wasn't there, looking at the distance, so forth. Once he got the gun, run. You've got the bad guy's gun, run to the nearest store. It's 8 o'clock at night, the nearest open business you can find without running in through the door with the gun in your hand. And ask them to call 911 and whatever. So don't stay there and wait for the second guy. The second guy may have just pounced him immediately. We don't have the timing there. But if you deflect a gun and you've got a moment there, first idea is to get out of the way so they don't kill you. Reminder, Crossroads of the West Gun Show is at Cashman 2 weeks from now, October 24 and 25. They brought me a huge stack of passes. If you want to send me an email at the address we gave, bob@firedupmail.com, I will answer the email and arrange for you to get a couple passes. Cashman is like $9 or $10 to get in. So it's
it's all that. I
and
think.
it's a big show. There'll be lots of stuff there, lots of vendors, including us with our brass, and hopefully we'll have some of our attorneys there to talk to you about cases if you have questions. So we will do that. If you just send me that email, we will arrange to get you some passes to the show at Cashman, which is cool. We are now, I'm going 100 miles an hour because I got like 19 pages here and I'm never going to get through it. Walton County Sheriff's Office, I forgot to put what state it's in. Oh, well. Released information on the 1st that a local male is behind bars after he brutally attacked a 74-year-old man back on September 19th. The suspect walked into the home of an elderly couple that he knew and asked to speak to the wife alone. The husband didn't really trust him. He said he couldn't speak to his wife without him being present. The guy became very angry. The husband then repeatedly asked the suspect, who appeared to be on drugs, to leave. That's the 74-year-old guy's opinion, that the guy was on drugs. We don't know that for sure. But the wife went outside to call 911 so she didn't have to call in front of the guy. When she went out of the room, the suspect struck her husband in the face several times, knocked him down, and pounded his head into a cabinet. Believing his life was endangered, now the husband pulls a .38 pistol from his pocket and shot the suspect in the mouth. Guess he was a mouthy suspect.
Right?
Yeah. You hit what you can hit. The intruder then ran out of the house. The police caught him. After he was released from the hospital, the suspect was arrested. He is charged with aggravated battery of person 65 or older, property damage and trespassing. He's booked now in the Walton County Jail in whatever state that's in. The husband sustained, there was a picture of this guy. He is really hurt. He had a fractured orbital socket in his right eye, a broken nose, a giant hematoma on his head.
Yikes.
I'll show you the picture when we get off the air. It's horrible. I'm surprised the guy survived, actually. The county sheriff said this is an absolute justifiable use of force. It's inexcusable behavior toward a 74-year-old man, and we do not accept this kind of behavior toward our senior citizens. In this case, having a firearm saved the man's life. That's not my statement. That's the sheriff saying that. A lot of county sheriffs believe that you should be armed, and they can't protect you. They're not there when this stuff happens. You've got to be able to handle it for the first 5-10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Yeah. Have to. Reminder again, next week will be on Wednesday night instead of Saturday. If you have comments you would like or questions, you can send me an email at firedupwithbob. At bob@firedupmail.com. Okay, I can't read the note.
Georgia. Walton County is in Georgia.
Yes, it was in Georgia. The county I couldn't find where the sheriff said you should have a gun to save your life was in Georgia. Okay.
And even here in Las Vegas, there's a lot of areas that it takes 5-10 minutes for the police to get in the city limits.
We're going to talk about one tonight that took place here, and the response time, even if it's 30 seconds, is
too long.
They can't be there in your living room when the guy's trying to hit you in the head. Yeah. We have another story here about a Craigslist setup. I hate these. We've seen these over and over again. This is we're running toward 1 minute. Okay. We're going to start talking about this, and then we're going to break for some commercials and a little bit of news and capitalism and so forth for you radio guys. We will stay on YouTube and the Periscope. Hi, Periscope guys. You're over there, and the YouTube guys are over here. This took place in Battle Creek, Michigan, and was another case of somebody responding to a Craigslist ad and getting robbed. But in this case, the robbers didn't win. We clear? We are off of radio now. So I'm going to talk about this case a little bit anyway, because we're here. But we'll go through it when we come back on to KDON so they don't miss it. But this is another one of these cases where a father and son from Grand Rapids, Michigan, drove to Battle Creek, which is a ways away, answering a Craigslist ad to buy a car. They arrived at the meeting place, which turned out to be an abandoned home. These guys were sitting with their car in the garage of the abandoned home, but they just opened the door and it looked like they lived there. Mm-hmm. So the car was probably hot on top of that. We don't know that. But anyway, they got out of their car and walked up to look at the car, were jumped by three guys. The buyers that showed up, the son was licensed with the CCW. He drew and fired twice. Two of the alleged attackers fled. Two were hit. One had a wound in his torso, the other, and was found a block away. The other one was shot in the lower torso and was also found nearby. They went to the hospital. The third suspect in this robbery is still being sought. It's not clear if he was hit or not. The father and son were not seriously hurt. After the shooting, the victims went to a nearby McDonald's to call the police. Doesn't make sense. They wouldn't use their cell phones, but
right.
The police questioned them to determine if the victim of this case, the shooting seems to have been self-defense. Police haven't released the names of anyone involved. The three alleged attackers in custody are 23, 20, and 19 years old, and all local Battle Creek residents. The case again is going to the Calhoun County Prosecutor's Office to decide who will be charged with what. Another Craigslist setup. We have seen these
all the time,
over and over. Sometimes murders. There was a serial killer that was calling women about a Craigslist ad, and when they'd show up, he murdered them. This is really common. If you are the buyer or the seller on Craigslist, meet in the parking lot of the nearest police station that's open 24/7.
Right.
Make sure they're going to.
And this especially because if they're, Battle Creek and they don't know the Grand Rapids area, at least if it's in your town, you may have an idea if it's one of the not so pleasant neighborhoods, and you have second thoughts about it. When you're going to a strange town, you have no idea.
Well, this is a horrible setup. The bad guys found an abandoned house, find the garage door open. They're standing in the garage with a car. That may have been a car belonging to the people that owned the house, but it was vacant anyway. And of course you drive up and go, yeah, I want to look at the car.
Right.
It's,
sure.
They don't live there. I mean, they've had pizza guys robbed this way a lot. It's an abandoned house, and the guy's waiting for you on the front porch. Pizza guys are taking their life in their hands now, but
pretty much.
We got one more minute before we come on the air and tell this story to the people at KDON. And there we are. I'm going to go to the next one. I got to mention stuff when we come back. And then next up, we've got the really stupid CCW.
Okay.
They're going to tell me in just a second that we're back on the radio. 210. Okay. Did he point his finger? Are we there? No, we're not there. Want to play cards or something?
We can. It's almost time. We're gonna be back up in just a second. Those of you on YouTube. This is kind of one of the reasons we're separating shows. When we're on Wednesday now on YouTube, that the radio guys aren't listening now, or Periscope, and we will be. Now we're on the air. Welcome back to Fired Up, all you KDON guys. You can listen in your car while you're driving home. The rest of you on YouTube and Periscope hopefully aren't looking at your cell phones while you're driving home. You can listen to the show. Just put your earwig in and don't look at the screen. We had talked about this case in Battle Creek just before we went to go break. And this was another Craigslist setup where
the bad guys, there were three of them, had an abandoned house. They were in, they put the ad in, then people called and they showed up at the address. There's the people, the garage doors open with the car supposedly they were selling. And it was an ambush to get the money. Fortunately, one of the buyers was a CCW holder and shot him. One of the odd things here was that he went to McDonald's to call the police rather than calling the police on his cell phone. Maybe he didn't have a locator and they wouldn't know where 911 where they were. There could be reasons. But if you run from the scene where you were the victim and you got your gun in your hand, be sure you put it away before you walk into McDonald's, just in case there's cops in there getting free coffee. Anyway, they got the guys. Craigslist is a terrible setup. A lot of the ads. We advertise on Craigslist, but we tell them to come to the gun store when we're open.
Right.
If you're buying or selling and it's not a business, you need to meet whoever it is, your buyer or your seller, in the parking lot of a police station. That's it. Or the middle of a huge shopping center that you know has security guards, just in case. Here's my favorite untrained CCW holder. Detroit Free Press, this week, last Tuesday. A concealed carry license holder is now cooperating with police after she opened fire on a shoplifter who was fleeing a Home Depot on Tuesday afternoon in Auburn Hills, a suburb of Detroit. The shooting happened at the store's front parking lot at 2 p.m. when a Home Depot security was chasing a male shoplifter in his 40s. So she's out there, she sees this guy being chased by a security officer. The guy jumped into a waiting dark SUV. When the SUV began to pull away, this 48-year-old woman suddenly began firing shots at the fleeing vehicle. She was not involved. She was in the shopping center. The vehicle escaped, but possibly has a flat tire. The woman who fired the shots has a license to carry a firearm and is cooperating with police. It is not clear whether the woman will face charges in the incident. This Home Depot is part of a large retail district with hundreds of stores. It's a giant shopping area. If you live in Detroit, you probably know where Auburn Hills is apparently a shopping area. Not wanting to really say anything bad about this lady who I do not know, but being courageous and dumb is a really bad combination.
Yeah, we just talked about this earlier about not being able to shoot people for stealing property, and this wasn't even her property. This was maybe something stolen from Home Depot. Wow, that let their security handle it, because it didn't sound like anybody's life was in danger. They were running, got in the car, took off. Nobody's life was in danger. She had no reason to shoot.
Yeah,
no reason,
no guns. This was a shoplifter,
property.
Not an armed guy, not a robber, but she wouldn't know that anyway. She just saw the security guard chasing the guy.
Yeah.
He jumps in a car, so there's obviously two of them, and she opens up on the car. Good thing she didn't kill anybody.
Yes, very good
she
thing.
thinks she hit one of the tires. Don't do this. Can't fire unless your life is in danger. You may fire in defense of other people's lives, but it's a crapshoot if you don't know what's going on. Yeah, somebody's shooting a friend of yours that you went to the movies with. You know who the bad guy is, or it's a relative, or it's your neighbors. In a shopping center, the security guard's probably the good guy because he's wearing a uniform. But nobody's in danger.
No. And
this lady, hopefully she's married to the district attorney.
Yeah, because there can be some definite charges coming on this one.
Hopefully, again, as in the earlier story, she didn't actually hit one of them.
Right.
Because that is going to be a huge lawsuit, and the bad guy is going to win.
Yeah.
He is going to win because he presented no danger, and any jury is going to look at this and say, well, yeah, he's a shoplifter, but she tried to kill him, and he wasn't even stealing from her. Yeah. be really careful when you're not involved. Next week, this show, the visual show, the video, will be on Wednesday. So we have another show coming in 4 or 5 days. The radio version will still be on Saturdays on KDON from 6 to 7. We're moving the video show only onto Wednesdays. Saturday, unfortunately, this coming Saturday, many of you know my bookkeeper lady, Crystal. She appeared on a lot of Fired Up episodes, little cute blonde. She's getting married next Saturday at 6 o'clock. So I must attend. Obviously I want to attend. So the radio time, unfortunately, is locked in. The YouTube time, we can put it on whenever we want. So the radio time on KDON, unfortunately, is locked in their schedule. Can't move it. So we're going to run a repeat of this show. And that'll be on next Saturday. But the radio will remain on Saturday. Only the YouTube show is moving to Wednesday, YouTube and Periscope. Reminder that the gun store here is lead-free. We invite you family members to come down and shoot here. We're safe for children and so forth. We still don't allow pregnant ladies in because the sound attenuation can damage babies. But we are lead-free, so your kids aren't going to get poisoned, and you're not going to go home wearing poisoned clothes that your baby chews on later. Crossroads Gun Show, Cashman, October 24 and 25. I have some passes for it. If you send me a note to bob@firedupmail.com up here, we'll respond by sending you some passes, put you on our mailing list to keep you up to date on that stuff. See how we're running for time. Got a lot of stuff at the end. There's a short one here where a lady was able to save herself again. This is in Topeka, Kansas. WIBW-TV reported on the 8th, 2 days ago. Near Overbrook, police say a woman shot an intruder who broke into her home early Thursday morning. The police chief said shortly after 12:30 a.m., middle of the night, 911 received 2 calls within minutes. That's why it's here, because there's 2 calls. This is kind of cute. First was a resident who told the dispatcher she had shot someone who broke into her house. 5 minutes later, a 48-year-old male called 911 and said he had been shot and was at a neighbor's home. It turned out to be his home. He was a neighbor of the lady. Emergency crews picked him up and transported him to a local hospital. The police searched both that home and the home where the shooting took place. The case is turned over to the county attorney, as we normally do, for formal charges against the suspect. The woman who allegedly shot the intruder was not hurt, and the police chief doesn't plan on releasing her name because of that. Another victim who saved somebody. It's just, I've seen this before once or twice, where it's somebody who lives nearby because they think they know you're not home or you're vulnerable or whatever. And you shoot the bad guy and he runs off, and then he calls 911. And usually they say, I accidentally shot myself. Yeah, I need an ambulance.
Right.
But there's another 911 call already saying, I just shot a guy and ran out of my house. And they're like 100 feet apart, and the cops go,
yeah, maybe.
Might be related.
Maybe related.
A thing I would say again on this one, not knowing the distance and how awake the lady was and so forth, if you have time with an intruder to scream, get out of here, I have a gun, go away or I'll shoot you, something, about 95% of the bad guys withdraw right then. Mm-hmm. And it would save her being up all night explaining to police what happened and who got shot and so forth. Right. If the bad guy runs away and no shots are fired, you'll get to go back to bed in an hour, and you won't be going through all this paperwork. Try to use verbal warning. It saves a lot of talking to the police, and it's also cheaper because you don't use up ammunition. So we want to save you money and not have you spend your ammunition. I want to do this story too. Let me get to the stuff at the end first. And we'll come back to the one on 10. So we're going to jump up to page 12. Unrelated shootings. a professor named Eric Dietz, PhD at Purdue University and former director of Homeland Security for the state of Indiana. Also a 22-year Army veteran, has researched mass shootings from the 1950s on. He discovered only 2 of them occurred where guns are legal to be carried. You think about that, every mass shooting in the United States since 1950, all but 2 occurred in gun-free zones.
Sure, that's the place to do it. Nobody else is going to start shooting back.
Back when I was cop, detectives call that a clue.
A clue, yeah.
When they're all taking place in gun-free zones. A Republican Congressman, Thomas Massey of Kentucky, introduced a bill. It's now there, H.R. 86, called the Safe Students Act, would effectively repeal the Gun-Free School Zone Act of 1990, which is why nationally we have gun-free school zones here and there. Representative Massey said weapons bans in gun-free zones are unconstitutional. They prevent law-abiding citizens from protecting themselves. They do not and cannot prevent criminals or the mentally ill from committing acts of violence, but they do often prevent victims of violence from protecting themselves. So first we have the clue that they all take place in gun-free zones.
Right.
And then the political solution is we don't have gun-free zones.
That's the solution to the problem.
The problem, the solution.
Very easy.
I'll run that by Hillary.
Yeah,
When I get
she doesn't get it.
Crossroads Gun Show, October 24 and 25. Send me a note at bob@firedupmail.com. I'll get you a couple passes for it. When we end at 7 o'clock, which is 15 minutes or so, we will continue on YouTube and Periscope for just a bit. I also want to remind you that we will, next Wednesday, this show will be on YouTube and Periscope. Wednesdays is going to be the visual show. Saturdays will still be the radio show from 6 to 7 time frame. Radio on Saturday, visual on Wednesday. Hopefully that'll work out. We're trying to get it put together. So I have a Saturday engagement, one of my employees' weddings that I have to go to. So we're going to repeat next week this show. So if you missed anything, you're listening to this and want to hear it over again, it'll be on next week. I had to run this. The week that ended September 18th, the Transportation Security Administration collected 67 firearms from airline passengers. That is a new weekly record, surpassing the 65 confiscated in May of 2013. Also surprising about TSA's latest firearms haul is that 56 guns were loaded. 25 of those had a round in the chamber, or 26 had a round in the chamber. The other 30 were loaded magazines. One would think in the last 14 years, since we had the restriction about not carrying guns in your checked baggage or on your person when you're flying in the United States, that everybody would know that?
Well, I don't think even before 9/11 you were able to carry a gun carry-on.
I don't honestly remember, but I know I got thrown off a Greyhound bus in college because they had a rifle with me. That's another story. I was taking it home to work on it, and the bus driver got, oh my God, he's got a, and it was in Oregon too, which is, you wouldn't think. Anyway, if you think Americans have learned that you're not supposed to take guns onto commercial airlines, think again, they haven't. Based on the total number of firearms discovered by TSA through August 2015, it's 1,898. Wow. This in 2015, we're going to break the record, which was last year, for 2,212 firearms seized in that year.
Good luck getting those back, by the way.
Yeah, you don't. They're gone. Flyers, you may travel with a gun in your checked baggage. There's rules about having a locked container, and you show that it's unloaded to the agent, whatever. Call your airline ahead of time. They all have different rules. Every aircraft flying around here has guns all over in the baggage.
Mhm.
People going hunting and flying, and cops that carry their gun and can't have it in the cabin and so forth. Because God knows if you get hijacked, you don't want to have an armed policeman in your
No, absolutely
in there.
not.
But you can take your firearm with you. Don't take it into the passenger part of the plane in your baggage or your ankle holster. And if you say, I forgot I had my ankle holster on, they don't care.
No.
You guarantee that you will miss your flight. You're going to be talking to TSA and running
Sure.
terrorist checks.
Very
for
long time. You may miss
hours.
several flights.
Yes. Good news, the Washington Post has reported that roughly, this is not really a gun issue, it's a crime issue, 6,000 federal inmates will be released in the coming weeks in an effort to ease prison overcrowding. The release is the biggest of its kind in U.S. history. The inmates released were all convicted of drug-related charges, it says in the article. Another 8,500 will be released starting in November. Wouldn't that be nice? The Sentencing Commission approved reductions in jail terms for inmates last year. Up to 46,000 of the nation's 100,000 drug offenders will qualify for early release because now their sentences are shorter and they're making it retroactive. This 6,000 is just the first wave. Most of those released have been about 2 years trimmed from their prison sentence. 1/3 of the inmates up for release are foreign citizens. They say they will be quickly deported.
Unless they're in San Francisco.
President Obama said they've been working on this and there's not fairness in the system. So this started under Eric Holder, got them to drop mandatory minimum sentences for nonviolent drug offenders. That's all nice and well, and everything is cool with me if they actually deport the criminals. And I have an opinion as to whether they will or not. Anyway,
Right?
I did also run into an interesting explanation of something that's always bothered me when we talk about mass shootings like we had in Oregon. The Justice Department has a definition they use of mass shooting, which is where 4 or more people are killed. If you look up what the Justice Department says, there were so many mass shootings, and you look up what Bloomberg's guys say,
Right.
there's like thousands more. The problem is the Bloomberg group uses a system called the Mass Shooting Tracker, which is mass shootings, not mass killings. They define a mass shooting as where up to 1 to more than 4 or more were shot in one setting, not killed. So the case we just had in Arizona, where the one kid shot the other 3, one's killed, the other 3 were injured. That's not a mass shooting according to the FBI because it's not a mass killing. That's why the Justice Department says there's this many small, and Bloomberg's guy says there's really way more than that.
Yeah.
It depends on how you're collecting the data.
Bloomberg's guy wouldn't skew.
It looks a lot better if
Statistics, would
you
they?
say more.
Yeah.
I was going to drop a note here too about a school police sergeant was arrested the other day for DUI, got in a wreck, beat up a motorist, tried to use his badge to get out of the thing with highway patrol. His name is Anthony Russo. The RJ article mentioned that he also years ago shot a 13-year-old retarded kid who was armed with a broken BB gun, to make it sound like there's a pattern here with Sergeant Russo. I don't know Sergeant Russo. I haven't talked to him since the shooting of the retarded or mentally handicapped, individual. That shooting was not him randomly shooting a mentally handicapped kid. The kid had a rifle that looked identical to a Daisy Model 94 lever action or Winchester 94 lever action, and was pointing it at a police officer and yelling things and whatever. And Russo's shooting of that child, which didn't kill him, he shot him once in the leg and once in the arm. He's survived. was an absolutely crispy, clean, valid shooting. I don't know about what he did now. This is 20 years later, but you know, when the paper coverage made it sound like he's a habitual thug because he previously shot this kid with a BB gun. Nobody knew it was a BB gun until after the kid was shot, and it was an absolutely valid shooting. And I was the expert in his defense, so I know that. I interviewed him, the kid, the mom, everybody. I went to the scene, found the bullets, all that kind of stuff. So that was a good shooting, not what it intimated in the RJ. Mr. Russo, if you're out there, I hope you're doing okay. This other one sounds like it's going to be a bit of a problem for you, sir. But your first one was okay. Las Vegas Gun Show, we were telling you for a while, October 17 and 18, there was a Las Vegas Gun Show at the Sports Center. It was canceled. I hope I got that through to everybody. The owner is ill, was in the hospital, so the show is not going on. The next one up is Crossroads, which is October 24 and 25, and that's the one I have passes for you. If you will send me a note to bob@firedupmail.com, I'll get you 2 free passes. We got Rocky Mountain at South Point coming up on November 7 and 8, another Crossroads at Cashman later. Nevada Firearms Coalition is running a charity shoot to raise money for the NRA at Boulder City at the Pro Gun Club. Call Michelle, 702-591-7455, and sign up. It's $100 to shoot and giving away a ton of guns. October 30th at Venetian, Keystone Corporation is having their annual dinner with conservative talk host Dana Perino from the 5. If you drop me an email at that same address, I will arrange you to get tickets. It's $75 or $100 a person. It's a big formal dinner. Great dinner at the Venetian. Skip that. I mentioned we'll be back here on the radio next Saturday, 6 to 7, but it'll be a repeat of this show. From this show on, the video shows will be on Wednesday from 6 to 7. If you would like to book any of our guests as a guest speaker or myself as a guest speaker, you can call our office number at 702-333-0033. Thanks for listening and watching on YouTube. We're going to do a little bit after we get off at 7, where it looks to me like we're about a minute away, if my watch is correct, from saying goodnight to KDON. I appreciate you guys listening to our show on KDON. I say it'll be here next Saturday, but the video will not. Hopefully you can tune in again one more time. And we are going to end the show now for the radio and break into some delightful music that was written for the show by the Easy Eights. If you can listen to it, it's kind of punk rocky, but it's all about the Second Amendment. And catch them when they're in town, the Easy Eights. It's a nice, great rock group, very pro-gun guys, and they appear here and they're in town. I will see if I can catch up on where they're appearing next. Thanks for listening. Now, the rest of you, this is the show, the one I didn't do. I got to put that one on next week. That's a good shooting. And, I didn't do the local one about the guy in Las Vegas, but I will do that one next week too. We had a local home invasion attempt where the homeowner shot a guy with his Glock, which I'll detail out for you next week. The newscast was on Channel 13 that interviewed the guy in the house and everything. Got a couple of things for next. We'll use these probably next Wednesday, 4 days from now, when we do our first Wednesday show. Now, Clark and I want to take some time to talk to you about gun laws. We are having at the moment a incredible push to do all sorts of nasty stuff to everybody who owns a gun. I'm sure you all saw the news reports Obama, our president, has made clear where he stands on guns following last week's tragic shootings in Oregon. He blasted Congress for not passing more gun control stuff. He is proposing another version of the universal background checks. Although, as we did, that's why I did the data earlier in the show, that very few mass shootings, depending on how you're doing the counting, the guy got his gun illegally. They all, virtually all of them, went and passed their background checks and got their gun. And they passed the background checks anyway because they haven't committed a crime yet. They're first-time offenders. About 80% of the people that offend are first-time offenders. Anyway, the president, I was kind of in stitches reading all this thing because he was greeted by a whole bunch of pro-gun protesters in Roseburg, Oregon. We went there. The gun rights activists in the area created a Facebook page with more than 8,000 supporters. Nice. Titled "Defending Roseburg, Denying Barack Obama," and protested his visit. The Secret Service guys, I mean, there were guys out there lining the road where the limousine was going to go with signs that say "Obama, go home," and they're carrying guns. And what is the Secret Service going to do? The county sheriffs would not intervene. They're allowed to stand on the sidewalk carrying a gun. Absolutely. So they rerouted his motorcade from here or there. He did talk to the victims' parents and relatives, which was nice that he did that. But using that shooting as a crutch for more gun control, particularly gun control that didn't affect the shooting, the background checks, is crap. It was not a good trip for President Obama. I think he got quite a surprise that even being victims of that shooting, the people there are pro-gun. I went to college in Southern Oregon, in Klamath Falls. This is a little ways away in Roseburg, Oregon. Nice little town, and with a little college, just like Klamath Falls is, and not a good trip for Obama. I've been waiting all week for him to announce what he's going to try to do, but when he came back from Roseburg, he didn't. He was going to make a speech there about what specifically he was going to do, but he didn't do it because of all the protesters and whatever. Obviously, was not the place to be saying, you need to get rid of your guns. Right. And the interesting sidelight, when he went there to talk about background checks being universal. News flash. Oregon has universal background checks already. One of 7 states that do that. Right. And you don't want to get tied up too much with the facts there, Bob, when you're trying to rouse up the people. And with all due respect, Mr. Obama, if you're going someplace and want to enforce gun laws, if you call me, I will tell you whether or not they already have that law where you're going, so you don't look like the north end of a southbound horse. No, he does anyway. But, there you are. See, we're not on the FCC part now with the radio, so I got a little more leeway. However, Hillary Clinton, the presumed candidate, except for the socialist, who now appears to be worse. He made a speech today about gun control. You're going to see these guys on the debate on Tuesday night, and I'm sure they're going to be, the Democratic candidates are going to try and one-up each other with all the gun control. Martin O'Malley's in the thing, who is the number one gun control guy. But Hillary has called for expanded background checks for firearm sales online and at gun shows. We already background check online and gun shows. If it goes across state lines, they have to ship the gun to a dealer, and we run a background check and charge them $20, or Nevada $25. To do that, there is no gun show loophole. The internet loophole is only if you're selling the gun in the same state, and that is about that many sales. Right. Because people buying guns really like to go to a shop and look at the gun before they pay for it. And then it arrives and it ain't what they wanted, or it's broken and they can't return it and they're screwed. People go to gun shops and gun shows and buy the gun there and get the background check. Anyway, so that's all crap. One of her proposals is very dangerous. The other one is extremely dangerous. The very dangerous one is she wants to close the loophole that says, right now, if you go to a dealer and we run your background check, it comes back no decision. 99% come back allowed. 1% comes back no decision. 1% comes back denied. Most of the denied ones actually get reversed because it's, if your name is John Smith, you know the routine because there's a felon with your same date of birth, and it takes you 2 years to get a gun every time you go to try and buy one. But anyway, what we do now by law under the Brady Bill is if we have a delay and it's longer than 72 hours, the dealer is allowed to release the gun. Many dealers do, some don't. Gun store is, we are kind of in between there. Walmart does not release after, if you are delayed 72 hours, have not been approved, they won't release the gun. And most of the major guys across the country that do that are the same way, because they're guys that tell them about risk management, say, yeah, you know, don't do this. What Hillary's proposing is that we have to deny it. If you're not cleared by the FBI in 72 hours, the sale goes as a denial. So if you were arrested in 1936 in the bayous of Louisiana and they can't find a record of your court appearance or whatever, you are not going to be able to buy guns, period, under that. Most everybody that is delayed actually gets their gun. It's an astounding percentage,
right?
Because they're for old traffic warrants that you send the money to the court and pay it, and then, you know, now you're not a fugitive anymore. You're a fugitive if you have a traffic warrant out somewhere in the country.
Right.
And that's the bulk of the ones we get delays on or denials is traffic warrants. But anyway, those get cleared up. They clear up that there's 3 guys named Robert Irwin in Las Vegas. There's actually about 9 of us that I've run into so far.
Wow.
Nobody with my same date of birth, fortunately, and only one who's a criminal. But I've run into him. He's doing better now. At least I haven't been called in the last 2 years and said, "Did you get arrested yesterday?" anymore.
Nice.
But no, not the time before either. Anyway, we all run into that. There's somebody with your same name, and if you are delayed, it'll become a denial according to Hillary's plan. So we'll have about 1% of the population, or 1.5%, that can legally own a gun that won't be able to get one under Hillary's plan. That's bad. The one that's worse is we have in our law here a law that's called the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act. It was passed 2006 or something. I put a full detail thing here, which says that if someone in the industry manufactures or distributes or sells a firearm that is later criminally misused, that the manufacturer, distributor, or retailer cannot be held liable for damage beyond his control for something the guy who bought the gun did.
Sure.
It's roughly the equivalent of if you get run over by a drunk driver and you sue Fletcher Jones who sold him the car. The court will look at that and go, Fletcher Jones had nothing to do with the damages and not allow the suit. Sorry, Fletcher, that's the name that pops to mind when I do this. And we have that in the firearms business as a separate law, but it's in normal commercial law anyway. That now, if we sell, a dealer sells a defective gun that goes off when you put it on safe and it fires. You can sue the manufacturer over that. You can sue for defective products. You can't sue for products that work as designed that someone used for criminal purposes. That's what the Protection Act does for the firearms industry. And we have it uniquely because our products are designed to cause harm. Your shotgun is designed to kill ducks. And so it does. And if you shoot and a piece of shot misses the duck and falls in a schoolyard because you fired the wrong direction and hurt somebody, you can't sue the guy who made the shotgun over that. It's misuse of it.
Common sense.
Yeah. Well, what Hillary wants to do is void the Protection and Lawful Commerce Act, Lawful Commerce and Arms Act. As you can imagine, that first off, 2 congressmen have already said they're going to introduce a bill next year to do that. We don't believe legally the president can do this with his pen and his phone because this is a law passed by Congress. That's what guys tell me who are lawyers,
Right.
but I've watched the president void laws that were passed by Congress.
Yeah.
You know, like border security and
Right.
all sorts of things. And he just says, well, they're not right. We're not doing that anymore.
Yeah. He's a complete nut job.
Any dealer in the United States, if our insurance company now is liable, because we can be sued if someone misuses a gun. We sell a gun to somebody and we enter that into commerce. Worst case scenario, we sell a gun to a guy. He takes it home. It gets stolen from his house in a burglary. The burglar sells it to another guy who sells it to another guy who murders somebody. We would be liable to be sued for that murder because we entered that gun into commerce. Our insurance company, obviously, anybody that insures the gun industry will walk away.
Yeah.
Can we continue to operate if every gun we sell has
No.
a tail that no matter what happens to it later, we get sued? They passed such a thing in San Francisco that killed the gun business in that city. If that passes, you will see no more guns. There will be no industry. The guns that exist will exist, other than the ones they now will be shipping in from Mexico instead of ATF shipping them out. The crooks will be shipping them in. But they'll all be illegal because they didn't go through all the other rules that we have.
Right.
This is a really, really dangerous thing. National Shooting Sports and the NRA are aware of it. They're on top of it. When this bill is introduced, or if Hillary is elected, or if Obama figures out that he can do this under executive power, it won't get through Congress now, even though these guys are introducing it. I don't want to make you think everything's going to fall.
Right.
It's not. If we elect more anti-gun people, it could. And that will be the end of the industry. And I am a little concerned about that. We have a defense, folks. Vote.
Yeah.
Just that easy. If you're not registered to vote, do it.
Do it.
We'll put on our website, for what it's worth, when all the primaries are over, and we have candidates for all the local offices that may or may not be pro-gun. I will put a list on our website of who I recommend on gun issues to be elected. There's lots of reasons to elect people. There's tax issues and immigration, all sorts of things. I will put a list of the people that I believe are the best pro-gun candidates. They may not be the best candidate in other aspects. However, you have to be aware of that. We're a one-issue horse here. So
Right.
the gun people tend to vote in a block, and hopefully we can keep the anti-gun people. We've got some Democrats running against Joe Heck and running here and there that are vehemently anti-gun. And if they're not, they'll be convinced by the other anti-gun people to vote one way or the other when they're the new guys. They don't have a mind of their own. This is a big election. Register. If you haven't registered to vote, do it now. If you don't vote, you can't complain about anything that happens. On that serious note, we're going to be back in 4 or 5 days, whatever Wednesday is, after the Democratic debate, which you got to watch. That'll help you decide who not to vote for. Did you see Bernie Sanders today? We got to get rid of these assault weapons. A magazine military rifle has no purpose but killing people. We've got to get rid of all of them. And he was the Democrat that was sort of good on guns.
Sort of good on guns, yeah.
Not as of today. Anyway, I'm sure they'll be fun. You can laugh at it because they'll all be stepping on each other, trying to be the most anti-gun candidate out there. And O'Malley will be there, so they're going to have a hard time.
Yeah, they'll have a hard time topping that one.
Martin O'Malley has 0% right now in the Democratic side, which is good. He is possibly the most anti-gun politician in the United States, if you don't consider Bloomberg a politician anymore because he's not in office. But anyway, thanks for listening to Fired Up. We'll be back next week. This is going to be a fun election. We'll see you Wednesday, and you can hear us again on Saturday. Thanks for listening.